The story begins on what seems to be an ordinary day, with our protagonist, a young man, making his way down a familiar street. He's on his usual route, likely finishing up errands or perhaps heading back home from work or school. Passing by the neighborhood convenience store, he doesn't expect anything out of the ordinary. But as he nears the entrance, he notices people fleeing from the store, moving in panicked, frantic strides. There's terror in their eyes, fear etched onto their faces, a sight that immediately puts him on edge. Something terrible has happened, or has happened, or is happening inside that store. Before he has time to process, a figure emerges from the shadows within the store. It's a man, and not just any man, a dangerous one, holding a gleaming knife. His face is twisted, filled with malicious intent. As the armed man steps out onto the street, his gaze falls upon two little girls who are frozen, unable to move, petrified by fear. In that moment, everything changes for our protagonist. He can't ignore what he's seeing. His heart pounds as he makes a split-second decision. Without a second thought for his own safety, he sprints toward the girls, closing the distance between him and the assailant. His only thought is to protect them, to stop this man from hurting these innocent children. He doesn't know how things will turn out. He doesn't care. All that matters is saving them. And just as the knife-wielding man lifts his arm, our protagonist throws himself at him, tackling him to the ground with all his strength. The girls are safe. They're crying but unharmed, looking at him with tearful eyes. But then, a sharp pain rips through his side. He looks down and sees blood slowly soaking his shirt. In the chaos, he didn't even feel the knife strike him. Stabbed, injured, he feels his strength draining. His vision begins to blur as the world around him becomes hazy. The cries of the little girls reach his ears, their voices distant but heart-wrenching. They're crying for him now, their faces twisted in sorrow as they watch him bleed. In his fading consciousness, he feels a strange warmth. He's glad that they're safe. He's glad he could protect them. But as his life slips away, a bittersweet thought crosses his mind. I made them cry. I didn't mean to make them cry. With that final, tender regret, he slips into darkness. He drifts in a vast, silent void. There is no pain, only quiet, a sense of weightlessness. And then, something shifts. A strange feeling envelops him, and he becomes aware, slowly, of sounds and warmth around him. He opens his eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling, high above him, carved with intricate designs that seem far too elaborate for any hospital room. Confused, he glances around, taking in the soft bedding, the elegant furniture, the gentle light filtering in from a window. A maid dressed in an old-fashioned uniform notices him and rushes over, looking both relieved and delighted. She calls him Cain, a name that sends a jolt of confusion through him. "You're awake, Cain," she exclaims with joy. She goes on to say that his mother is overjoyed to hear he's recovered, her eyes warm and kind. His heart races, but he tries to stay calm, hoping he can piece together what's happening. As she calls for others, he catches a glimpse of himself in a nearby mirror. The reflection that meets his gaze is not his own, at least, not the one he remembers. He sees the face of a small child staring back, wide-eyed and bewildered. He realizes with a mix of shock and wonder that he has somehow been reborn. Am I in another world? Soon after, the maid who introduces herself as Sylvie returns with a woman who seems to radiate kindness. She's his mother, apparently, her face soft with motherly concern as she gently touches his cheek. She calls him Cain as well, her voice filled with affection. As they speak, he begins to understand he is in a noble family, reborn as a young boy with a new family and a new life in an unfamiliar world. When they leave to prepare a meal for him, he sits up, still dazed, struggling to come to terms with his reality. He had saved those girls, sacrificed his life without a second thought. But somehow fate, or perhaps some higher power, had granted him another chance. He looks around this luxurious room, marveling at the odd blend of luxury and antiquity, and decides he must learn more about this world. As days go by, he slowly learns about his new identity. He is now Cain von Silford, the young son of a powerful margrave named Garm. His family includes his gentle mother, Sarah, and an older sister named Rain. He also learns of his father's first wife, Maria, who has 2 sons of her own. His new father, Garm, is a man of considerable influence and is charged with defending their land's borders. Every day, Cain pieces together more details, using every moment alone to reflect on his situation. Sylvie becomes his guide to this world. She is endlessly patient and begins to teach him about their strange land, a place filled with magical creatures, adventurers, and powerful beings. He learns that magic is real, that stories he once considered fantasy are now his reality. He longs to try magic himself, to tap into the unknown forces that fill the world. Though he has left behind everything he once knew, he finds that he doesn't miss his former life much. This world feels like a new beginning, a fresh start where he can truly make a difference. He throws himself into learning, astonishing his family with his quick intellect. His sister, Rain, proudly informs their father that Cain has learned to read and do arithmetic at an impressive speed for his age. His family praises his intelligence, unaware that he carries the knowledge of a high school student from another world. When he expresses a desire to study magic, his father advises patience, explaining that he must wait until his baptism at age 5 to receive his blessings from the gods. Secretly, Cain practices spells on his own, experimenting with small magic incantations. While he struggles at first, his persistence pays off, though not without mishaps. In one incident, he accidentally sets part of his room alight, hastily putting out the flames before Sylvie and Rain notice. Despite these challenges, he remains determined to master the art of magic and learns as much as he can about the kingdom, its history, and its mysteries. Eventually, the day of his baptism arrives. It's a grand affair, filled with ceremony and ritual. As he steps into the ancient church, he feels a powerful connection, as if something momentous is about to happen. When he kneels to pray, something extraordinary occurs. A radiant light pours from the statues of the 7 gods, and suddenly he finds himself standing before them in a celestial realm. The gods reveal to him that his heroic act in his previous life did not go unnoticed. His sacrifice moved the god of earth to grant him another chance, and thus he was reborn with his memories intact. Each god bestows him with blessings, endowing him with powers that far exceed those of ordinary mortals. When he awakens from the divine vision, he checks his status and is awestruck. His stats are astronomical, his abilities far beyond anything he had imagined. However, his father warns him of the need for secrecy, urging him not to reveal his gifts, as such power could be seen as a threat to the kingdom. Despite his growing power, Cain maintains his humility. He dedicates himself to his studies, learning everything he can about his family's duties and responsibilities. Yet, he never forgets the promise he made to himself in that other life, the desire to protect the innocent, to prevent tears and suffering. He trains, he studies, and he practices his magic in secret, determined to use his gifts for good. In one intense moment, while practicing summoning magic, he accidentally conjures a creature more dangerous than he intended. His sister and her friend are nearby, and the creature tries to attack them. With all his might, Cain shields them, ultimately sending the creature back to where it came from. As he looks at the frightened girls, he recalls the faces of the girls he saved in his past life and thinks, "I won't let anyone cry because of me again this time." He knows he has the power to make a difference. Years pass, and at his debut ceremony, his father asks him what he wants to be. With unwavering resolve, Cain replies, "I want to be an adventurer who protects people's smiles." In that moment, he feels a deep sense of purpose, ready to use his abilities to bring happiness and safety to others. This world, he decides, is where he belongs now, and he will do everything he can to make it a better place. The story picks up as Garm, a dependable figure in Cain's life, realizes that young Cain's ambitions are greater than he had imagined. Cain, despite his age, possesses a rare drive to become an adventurer, a path filled with challenges, dangers, and profound learning. Garm, seeing the spark in Cain's eyes, knows he has to give him every opportunity to grow. He gently tells Cain that if he truly wishes to be an adventurer, he'll need to study hard and gain wisdom in more than just combat. Garm promises to find him a tutor, someone with both knowledge and strength, to guide Cain on this extraordinary path. Cain's heart races with excitement and curiosity. He wonders what kind of person his tutor will be, envisioning a mighty warrior with a muscular build and a fierce aura, or perhaps a mysterious, magical figure with an air of enchantment. His thoughts run wild with anticipation, barely able to contain his excitement. The promise of training fills him with purpose and eagerness to prove himself, hoping that his tutor will recognize his potential and take him seriously despite his youth. The awaited day arrives. Sylvie, the ever-supportive family servant, approaches Cain with a warm smile, announcing that his tutor has arrived. Without a second thought, Cain, eager to make an impression, decides to teleport himself to his new tutor using his move spell. In his haste, however, he misjudges the spell, materializing directly into the arms of a young woman. In a humorously awkward moment, he finds himself pressed against her chest. The girl, amused by the situation, teases him playfully, asking if he's in need of a nurse, adding with a grin that she's not quite ready to produce milk yet. Cain, his face flushed with embarrassment, hurriedly apologizes, stammering as he tries to explain himself. The butler steps in smoothly, rescuing Cain from his awkward moment, and introduces the two women as his new tutors. Their names are Millie and Nina. Millie, with a head of vibrant red hair and an aura of fiery energy, exudes confidence. She carries herself like a true adventurer, and there's a glint in her eye that hints at a playful but competitive spirit. Beside her stands Nina, an elegant green-haired elf with a calm and composed demeanor. Her presence is almost ethereal, and her gaze reveals a wisdom beyond her years. Both women introduce themselves formally to Cain's parents, bowing respectfully as they declare their roles as D-rank adventurers. Cain, however, is eager to break down the formalities. With his youthful enthusiasm, he tells them they don't need to speak so politely after all, they're his tutors now. Garm, overseeing this exchange, clarifies that these two remarkable adventurers will be training Cain for the next 3 years. Cain can barely contain his excitement, knowing he's about to embark on an incredible journey of growth and learning. Without delay, Millie, eager to get started, leads Cain to the training grounds. She announces that they'll be starting with the fundamentals of swordsmanship, eager to see what the young boy is capable of. Cain, gripping the sword with both hands, begins practicing his swings, pouring every ounce of his energy into each move. To her surprise, Millie notices that Cain's technique is uncommonly polished for someone his age. Each swing is precise and deliberate, betraying a natural affinity for the sword that even seasoned warriors would admire. Nina, observing from the sidelines, remarks in awe that Cain might even be more skilled than Millie herself. Not one to back down from a challenge, Millie playfully refuses to be bested by a 5-year-old. She decides to test him further, suggesting they have a mock battle to see his full potential. Cain's eyes sparkle with excitement as he readies himself, eager to prove his worth. As the battle begins, Cain attacks with remarkable agility and speed, surprising both his tutors. He moves with the confidence of someone blessed by the gods, and Nina, astonished by his prowess, wonders aloud if Cain possesses the protection of the god of war. Cain, his face lighting up with pride, admits that he does, but shyly adds that his father warned him not to speak of it outside the family. Realizing that Cain's strength in combat is already beyond what she had expected, Millie knows she won't be able to keep up at this rate. She turns to Nina, proposing they move on to the next phase magic. Nina, who possesses level 3 protection from the goddess of magic, is more than ready to share her knowledge. She begins by explaining the fundamentals, demonstrating a few basic spells, but as soon as she starts, Cain interrupts, revealing that he already knows these spells. Curious, Nina asks him to demonstrate, and Cain surprises them by casting magic without any incantations, a skill that even the most experienced mages find difficult. The ease with which he performs the spell, and the fact that he can use all elemental magic, leaves both Millie and Nina in disbelief. Only mages of the sage class can usually master multiple elements, but here Cain is, mastering them at just 5 years old. Nina wonders aloud if he also has the protection of the god of magic, to which Cain nods, causing his tutors to exchange glances filled with amazement and bewilderment. As if that weren't enough, Cain casually pulls a towel from his item box, a rare magical skill that only the most adept adventurers can possess. Millie and Nina can hardly believe it every time they think they've seen the extent of his abilities. Cain surprises them further. In a whisper, Millie confides to Nina that they may not be able to teach him anything he doesn't already know. Nevertheless, they press on, hoping to find new ways to challenge him and help him refine his abilities. Given Cain's immense power, they realize that training within the mansion grounds might be dangerous. Cain timidly admits that he's never left the mansion, except for his baptism, and his tutors agree it's time for him to explore beyond its walls. After discussing it with Garm, who gives his blessing with a tinge of concern, they venture out into the plains, where Cain can freely practice his spells without worry. Out in the open, Nina encourages Cain to try an intermediate spell on a nearby boulder. With a confident nod, he casts Firewall, reducing the boulder to rubble with a single blast. His tutors are astonished yet again, as such spells normally require significant energy and control. However, Cain seems unfazed, his magic reserves barely depleted. As they press on, a killer rabbit, a common, yet surprisingly vicious creature, leaps at Cain. Reacting instantly, Cain casts an air bullet, taking down the creature with precision. He proudly stores his first kill in his item box, his face beaming with pride at the prospect of showing it to his family. The training intensifies over the next few years, and Cain's abilities continue to grow at an alarming rate. He learns search magic from Nina, mastering it instantly, and even locating specific numbers of creatures in the area. When Nina warns him of a nearby forest filled with monsters that pose a threat to the city every decade, Cain's determination hardens. He promises to grow strong enough to protect his home and everyone he loves. Time flies, and before long, 3 years have passed. Millie and Nina, proud but slightly melancholic, tell Cain that it's time for them to move on, declining to extend their contract further. Cain, touched by their guidance and friendship, feels a wave of gratitude. Remembering that they once mentioned their dream of owning magic bags, Cain decides to make this dream a reality. That night, he ventures into the forest, where he bravely confronts a bloody ogre and an earth dragon, powerful creatures whose skins are ideal for crafting enchanted bags. After a fierce battle, he emerges victorious, obtaining the materials he needs. The next morning, as Millie and Nina prepare to leave, Cain presents them with the magic bags he created himself. Millie's bag is crafted from the bloody ogre's hide, while Nina's is made from the earth dragon's skin. Each bag can hold an enormous amount, even as much as his mansion, a feature that leaves them speechless. They thank Cain with heartfelt kisses on his cheeks, promising him they'll always be there if he ever needs their help. That night, as Cain reflects on his journey, he's met by Garm, who holds up a familiar towel found in the forest, the evidence of Cain's recent adventure. Garm, ever the cautious father, gently reminds Cain of his youth and urges him to stay mindful of his limits. Cain, though stronger than ever, listens earnestly, knowing that no matter how powerful he becomes, he'll always have more to learn. In the years ahead, Cain dreams of standing as a protector, stronger and wiser, for the world and for the ones he cherishes most. The story unfolds as young Cain, with his remarkable strength and potential, finds himself face to face with a formidable dragon. Standing tall, its scales gleam in the sunlight, and its eyes burn with ancient fury. This powerful beast, feared by all, lets out a deafening roar, daring anyone to challenge it. But Cain, with a calmness far beyond his years, steps forward, his hand tightly gripping his weapon. Taking a deep breath, he focuses every ounce of his energy, channeling his power into a single strike. In one swift and decisive motion, Cain brings his weapon down, slicing through the dragon as though it were no more than air. The creature, once mighty and unstoppable, crumbles before him, lifeless. Cain blinks in disbelief, standing amidst the silence that follows the creature's fall. He feels a surge of pride mixed with astonishment, hardly able to accept that he has slain such a powerful being with a single blow. To confirm, he cautiously approaches the dragon's still body, nudging it gently. It's truly defeated. Overcome by curiosity, Cain checks his stats and finds something staggering. His magic points exceed 80 million, an almost incomprehensible level for anyone, especially someone his age. As he scans his stats further, he notices 2 new titles awarded to him: Enemy of All Monsters and Dragon Killer. These titles bring a sense of achievement, but they also remind him of the weight of his actions and the responsibilities that come with such power. 2 years pass since that fateful battle. Now 10 years old, Cain is on his way to the royal capital, where he will make his official debut in society. His young friend Reen, who's been eagerly awaiting this day, is thrilled at the prospect of living together in the capital. She dreams out loud of the adventures they'll share and urges Cain to start attending the academy right away. Her father, however, steps in gently, reminding her that Cain is still too young and cannot officially start his studies until he turns 12. Reen, undeterred, declares that she'll take the Academy's top position in the entrance exams, determined to prove her abilities. Cain, with his characteristic curiosity, asks how long their journey to the capital will take. Garm, his father, explains that it should take about a week if they don't encounter any monsters along the way. Ever proactive, Cain activates his search skill and quickly discovers that a battle is already raging 3 kilometers ahead. He senses a dozen or so knights struggling against a horde of monsters. Without hesitation, he informs his father, and Garm instructs their own knights to increase their pace. However, Cain, realizing that the knights might not arrive in time, takes matters into his own hands. He channels his wind magic, launching himself forward in a swift gust. As Cain reaches the scene, he witnesses the knights, fatigued and battered, struggling against a swarm of orcs, their leader a powerful orc general looming over them. Cain jumps into the fray, wielding both his magic and sword skills with unmatched precision. Each movement is fluid and calculated, his attacks cutting through the orcs with ease. In a matter of moments, he has defeated not only the orc soldiers but the fearsome general as well. Once the dust settles, Cain introduces himself to the astonished knights, revealing his noble lineage as the third son of Margrave Cain von Silford. Shortly after, Garm and their group of knights arrive at the scene. Garm surveys the aftermath, noting that Cain has already dispatched all the monsters and even taken the time to heal the injured knights. The knights, awestruck, express their gratitude as Cain uses his magic to restore their strength. He then carefully collects the bodies of the fallen soldiers, storing them in his item box to ensure their remains are honored and returned to their families. A carriage bearing the crest of Duke Santana pulls up nearby, and from within step Princess Celestia and Lady Silk, both visibly shaken but safe. Garm warmly greets them, relieved that they are unharmed. The princess and Lady Silk, equally grateful, thank Cain and his father for their timely intervention. Intrigued by Cain's skills and bravery, the ladies ask for his name, and he introduces himself formally. Celestia, feeling faint from the day's horrors, winces as a headache takes hold. Noticing her discomfort, Cain respectfully asks her permission to use a calming spell, offering her a reprieve from the fear and exhaustion. With her consent, Cain casts his relaxed spell, soothing her mind and bringing her peace. Both Celestia and Silk feel their tension and stress melt away, their hearts suddenly lighter, and they express their appreciation with warm smiles. Silk, captivated by Cain's prowess, compliments his skill with both sword and magic, even teasing him slightly with admiration. The princess and Lady Silk, now feeling more comfortable around Cain, start to compete playfully for his attention, each vying to express her gratitude. Cain mentions that he's headed to the capital for his debut, and the ladies, delighted to discover their shared destination, insist that he travel with them. The royal guards move aside, allowing Cain to join the ladies in their luxurious carriage. Cain quickly realizes that the space is a bit too cramped, so he politely offers to sit on the opposite side. The princess and Lady Silk, however, plead with him to stay close, confessing that they feel safer with him by their side. As they settle into their journey, the princess shyly asks Cain to call her Teles, while Lady Silk insists he address her simply as Silk. Cain hesitates, aware of the social hierarchy that places these noble ladies well above his rank, but they insist, making it clear that they want no formalities between friends. Cain eventually agrees, though not without some embarrassment. As they near the town of Renoma, a guard interrupts their conversation, instructing everyone to prepare to disembark. Cain, feeling slightly embarrassed about the intimate carriage ride, wonders if the guards had been watching their interactions. In the town, Cain bids the ladies goodnight, only to have them insist that he stay with them. Silk claims that the unsettling memories of the earlier battle still haunt her, and Celestia, echoing her sentiment, expresses fear of being alone after the day's harrowing events. Garm, ever the watchful father, gently suggests that it may not be proper for Cain to share a room with young ladies, but the princess argues passionately, claiming they won't sleep soundly without Cain nearby. Relenting under their persistent requests, Garm finally arranges a large room for them all to stay together, warning Cain to act with discretion. As night falls, the princess and Silk rearrange their beds to be as close as possible to Cain, seeking comfort in his presence. Despite his protests, they assure him that they feel safer knowing he's nearby, insisting that this arrangement is the only way they'll be able to sleep. Cain, though a little flustered, agrees, promising to guard them through the night. The next morning, after a restless night, Cain emerges exhausted but determined to continue his journey. Over the following days, he finds himself in much the same situation, with the princess in silk frequently drawing close to him under various pretexts. By the time they reach the royal capital, Cain is sleep-deprived but proud to have protected his companions every step of the way. At the gates, a knight named Diam, the vice-captain of the Royal Chivalric Order, greets them, noticing the close bond the young ladies seem to share with Cain. After they recount how Cain saved them from the orc attack, Diam thanks him with deep respect and admiration. Cain retrieves the bodies of the fallen soldiers from his item box, allowing them to be given proper honors and farewells. Diam expresses his profound gratitude, noting that Cain's efforts ensure these brave souls will be returned to their families. Shortly afterward, the king himself summons Cain for an audience. In the grand throne room, the court listens as the minister recounts Cain's heroics, detailing how he single-handedly defeated 50 orcs and saved the princess and Lady Silk. The nobles murmur in astonishment, struggling to comprehend such feats from someone so young. Impressed by Cain's bravery and skill, the king bestows upon him the rank of baron, along with 10 platinum coins and a mansion. One nobleman, Corgino, protests, arguing that it's improper to grant a title to a 10-year-old. The king, however, stands firm, recognizing Cain's extraordinary potential and the need to secure him as an asset to the kingdom. The king, with a hint of warmth, extends an invitation to Cain and his father to join him in the parlor afterward, where they are joined by Duke Eric von Santana, Lady Silk's father. The king and the duke, grateful for Cain's heroics, propose an engagement between Cain and their daughters, citing the deep bond he has already formed with them during the journey. Cain, cornered by the noble logic of their request, has little choice but to agree, realizing that the engagement, though unexpected, is a way to cement his loyalty to the kingdom and his place within its noble circles. Later, Cain reflects on the whirlwind of events that have transpired since he set out on this journey. He thinks of the princess and Lady Silk, the battles he has fought, and the responsibilities that come with his new title. The weight of his powers, his newfound duties, and his connections to the royal family all dawn on him, leaving him both excited and humbled by the path before him. His adventure has only just begun, and with his new allies, titles, and purpose, he is determined to rise to whatever challenges the future may hold. The story continues with young Cain stepping into the hallowed halls of the church, an air of reverence surrounding him as he prepares for a rare audience with the gods. His mind, however, is preoccupied. Cain's journey has been so extraordinary that he himself feels the need to consult the higher powers about his own strength. With a mixture of awe and concern, he humbly admits to the gods, "I think I may have overdone it with my leveling. My power feels a bit overwhelming." He waits with bated breath as he reveals his status, and the god Xenum, in all his wisdom, assesses the numbers that have elevated Cain far beyond the realm of ordinary mortals. Xenum's voice resounds with a curious mix of admiration and gravity. "Your strength is indeed remarkable, almost beyond comprehension for one so young. Tell me, Cain, would you consider taking your place as a demigod?" Xenum explains that the path of a demigod would align Cain with the mighty divine dragons and revered holy beasts, immortal protectors, who bridge the human and divine realms. Cain feels a wave of awe sweep over him, the weight of such an offer almost too much to bear. But Xenum gently reminds him, "You must understand that even with such power, there are limits to what one soul can achieve alone." Shifting from this solemn proposition, Xenum's demeanor lightens, and with a wry smile, he brings up the lack of entertainment in their celestial realm. "Cain," he says, a glint in his divine eye, "you bring wisdom and knowledge from another world. Might you share with us something new, something that could bring some joy here?" Cain recalls fond memories of his past life and wonders if games from his old world might bring delight to this one. The gods eagerly encourage him, and with an excited determination, Cain promises to bring something new to life. The scene transitions, and Cain now finds himself in a bustling clothing shop, attempting to help his sister Rien with her shopping. But as her choices become increasingly elaborate, Cain starts feeling the familiar awkwardness of standing among so many dresses. He quietly slips outside for a breath of fresh air, where he stumbles upon Parma, the cat girl he saved during one of his earlier adventures. Her bright eyes light up when she sees him, and with a cheerful grin, she asks what he's doing there. Cain explains his upcoming debut, and Parma, eager to show him her progress, leads him to her uncle's shop. There, he meets Timanis, a merchant who immediately impresses Cain with his eclectic assortment of items. Cain's mind sparks with an idea, recalling the simple yet captivating game of reversi from his past life. With a smile, he proposes the idea to Timanis, explaining that a game like reversi could entertain nobles and commoners alike. Timanis, realizing the potential, agrees wholeheartedly. Excited, Cain hands him a gold coin, assuring him that it's an investment. Timanis looks awestruck at the young boy's vision and devotion. With this plan set in motion, Cain returns to his sister, who is waiting impatiently. Rain is none too pleased at Cain's sudden disappearance, but her irritation melts into joy when Cain compliments her, saying she looks amazing in anything she wears. Her smile grows, and she insists on showing him every outfit in her collection, a task Cain finds both endearing and exhausting. Soon enough, Timanis completes the first reversi prototype, and Cain is thrilled with how it has turned out. He eagerly tests the game with Parma, teaching her the rules and marveling at how perfectly it fits into this world. Cain requests 2 different versions, a luxurious one for the nobility and a simpler version for everyone else, foreseeing the appeal across social classes. He asks Timanis to produce an especially lavish set for the royal family, hoping it will make a memorable gift. Finally, the day of Cain's debut ceremony arrives. He feels a mixture of excitement and apprehension as his family arrives at the Grand Palace, where he is about to present himself to the kingdom. His father Garm warns him of the attention he'll draw, especially from noble families eager to introduce their daughters to the newly minted baron. Cain, though embarrassed, promises he'll handle it. Entering the magnificent hall, Cain notices familiar faces, including Duke Eric and his daughter Silk. The Duke's warm but imposing demeanor reminds Cain of their last encounter, which wasn't quite public. Eric expresses gratitude for saving his daughter's life, hoping they'll build a lasting friendship. Cain then meets the king and his family. The princess blushes when Cain, with genuine admiration, calls her outfit divine. The king raises an eyebrow, asking Garm how he managed to raise such a smooth talker. Cain can only chuckle nervously, sensing the king's protective gaze on his daughter. Taking a deep breath, Cain presents the king with the extravagant reversi set he had commissioned, explaining its popularity and hoping it will be enjoyed across the kingdom. The king's interest is piqued, and he invites Cain to discuss the game further in private after the ceremony. The king then slyly mentions he would also like to discuss future prospects concerning his daughter, leaving Cain flustered. Cain navigates the crowd, meeting various nobles, each encounter more demanding than the last. Just as he manages to catch a break, Silk and her friend Telly's approach, offering him a drink. They exchange pleasantries, with Silk expressing gratitude for their friendship. But soon, a noble child named Habit interrupts, attempting to flaunt his status. Ignorant of Cain's rank, he mocks him, ordering Cain to apologize. But Cain, with a cool demeanor, turns the tables and suggests that Habit be the one to apologize. This infuriates Habit, who challenges Cain to a duel outside. Once outside, Habit's lackeys attempt to cast spells to intimidate Cain. Yet, comically, their spells are weak, merely fizzling in the air. Silk, feigning shock, finally reveals Cain's true status as a baron and the heroic rescuer of the princess. Faced with the reality of Cain's accomplishments, Habit and his friends bow humbly, asking Cain's forgiveness, then make a hasty retreat. Silk, laughing, teases Cain about his strategic silence, and in a playful twist, she demands a date in return for her silence about the incident with Telly's. After the party, Cain keeps his promise and presents the game to the king in private. The king is thrilled, envisioning the joy it will bring to his court. Eric then subtly reminds Cain of his promise to take Silk on a date, giving Cain a knowing look and a word of caution about his daughter's engagement plans, though still unofficial. Cain promises to handle everything with care, feeling both excitement and a slight pressure at his newfound responsibilities and relationships. The night ends with Cain pondering how his life has transformed. From defeating monsters and gaining godlike strength, to entering the royal circle and winning the trust of the kingdom, he is living a life beyond his wildest dreams. And yet, with each step he takes, Cain is increasingly aware that he is walking a delicate line between honor and duty as he prepares to face whatever awaits him next with all the courage he can muster. The story continues as Cain, still exhilarated by the whirlwind events, finally receives the keys and a map for his new mansion from Minister Magna. Magna chuckles, mentioning with a glint in his eye that the king had actually wanted to play a match of reversey with Cain as soon as he heard Cain was coming by. It had taken some serious persuasion to convince the king to wait. Cain is both honored and amused by the king's enthusiasm, but as he watches Magna and the other nobles in the room, he realizes something going home early might not be in the cards after all. Just then, Duke Eric walks in, eager to challenge Cain to his own match of reversey. Magna and several other nobles quickly chime in, each requesting a turn to play. Cain smiles with a mix of pride and resignation, realizing he'll be spending a bit more time here. It's not every day, after all, that a young baron captivates the interest of the realm's most influential figures. After several matches, the scene shifts to Cain arriving at his new mansion. Standing before it, he takes in the rundown exterior, the once grand building clearly showing the ravages of time. Even as he steps inside, the dim interior, cluttered with dust and broken furniture, doesn't faze him. With a quiet determination, Cain casts a light spell, illuminating each neglected corner as he begins his exploration. As he wanders from room to room, he sees the potential hidden beneath the grime and decay. Thinking to himself, he decides the mansion needs a serious makeover. Channeling his magic, he casts all clean and all repair spells. Instantly, the dust vanishes, walls and floors mend, and the mansion is restored to its former beauty. Cain feels a swell of pride as he surveys the now pristine space. It almost seems to sparkle. Moments later, Sylvie arrives with a group of maids. Her face lights up as she steps inside, delighted that Cain invited her to join him here. She's determined to make the mansion feel like a home, and she directs the maids to begin cleaning the various rooms. They soon realize, however, that the place is already spotless. Cain sheepishly admits to using magic to do the heavy lifting, which amuses Sylvie but impresses the maids even more. As the maids settle in, Cain's new butler, Colon, introduces himself, mentioning that Seabase, Cain's former butler, has spoken very highly of him. Cain is touched, realizing how fortunate he is to have such loyal and dedicated people around him. Colon reassures Cain that he and the maids will handle everything, suggesting Cain return to his family's mansion to greet his visiting brothers. The scene shifts again as Cain, back at his family home, is greeted by his brothers, who tease him about becoming a baron before them. Rain, Cain's sister, expresses her eagerness to see her brother's new mansion. The brothers, teasingly, warn her that it might still be haunted or falling apart. Rain boldly declares that her little brother, the newly minted baron, will protect her if anything goes awry. Cain laughs, assuring her there's nothing to fear. The next scene unfolds as Cain proudly gives his family a tour of the newly restored mansion. His parents and Rain are visibly awestruck. Garm, his father, marvels at how Cain transformed the mansion from the crumbling ruin it once was, suspecting magic was at work. Cain nods, explaining that he used magic for the restoration. His father, however, notes that something is missing: artwork, decorations, and the kind of luxurious items nobles expect to see. Determined to make the mansion truly worthy of a noble, Cain listens as Garm suggests he adorn the space with paintings, fine vases, and even mounted trophies. Smiling, Cain assures his father that he already has a mounted piece of red dragon trophy, in fact. Just then, they hear Sylvie's startled cry for help. Rushing to her, they find the maids trembling before the impressive, life-sized mounted red dragon in the foyer. Cain realizes he may have neglected to warn them about it. He chuckles, explaining that he vanquished the beast himself. His family is awestruck, especially his father, who knows that even seasoned adventurers struggle against such a creature. Later, as they continue exploring, they reach the washroom where Rain and his mother exclaim in astonishment at a unique feature: an enchanted toilet that, at the touch of a button, sprays a gentle stream of water. Rain is immediately enamored with the concept, begging Cain to install something similar at their family estate. Cain's father, initially unimpressed by all the fuss over a toilet, eventually tries it himself. Much to his surprise, he finds it quite refreshing, and the whole family laughs together, united in their delight at Cain's ingenuity. Talk of the mansion's grand debut arises and Colin reminds Cain of the need to host a debut party to introduce his estate to the other nobles. Cain feels a mix of excitement and anxiety as he reviews the guest list, realizing that hosting such an event requires meticulous planning. Sylvie suggests that instead of adhering strictly to formalities, Cain should focus on treating his guests with genuine hospitality. Inspired, Cain decides to create elegant glassware as party favors. With his magical abilities, he crafts delicate, sparkling glasses that Sylvie is certain will enchant the guests. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Cain works with the chef to perfect his recipes, introducing the kitchen staff to a new delicacy from his world, the Hamburg steak. Sylvie takes a taste and finds it utterly delicious. Cain also introduces her to a special bubbly drink he's concocted, an enchanted wine with a fizzy sparkle. Sylvie's eyes light up as she takes a sip, enchanted by the effervescent taste. She playfully insists on another glass to fully evaluate it. The day of the party finally arrives. Nobles stream into Cain's mansion, captivated by its beauty. Even the Duke is impressed when he sees the mounted dragon trophy, admitting he never thought he'd see such a creature up close. Silk, charmed by her surroundings, expresses her excitement about someday calling the mansion her home. At last, the king and queen arrive, along with Princess Celestia, Cain's fiancée. The queen, having heard rumors about the enchanted toilet, wastes no time in trying it out herself. Laughing, she insists that such a contraption must be installed at the palace immediately. The king, bemused, tries it himself, eventually joining in on the enthusiasm, and orders Cain to install one in the royal washrooms. However, not all is perfect. Marquis Corgino, a noble with a penchant for criticism, arrives. From the outset, he sneers at everything: the food, the glasses, the decor, finding fault with each. Cain remains polite, but as the Marquis grows ruder, Cain formulates a clever plan. Using his search magic, Cain locates the king nearby, then subtly steps aside, allowing the king to overhear Corgino's tirade. Caught in his harsh behavior, Corgino quickly backtracks, professing his admiration for the party. The king scolds him, hinting that his attitude could impact his future standing. As the night ends, Cain feels a wave of relief. Despite the challenges, the mansion debut is a resounding success. His family beams with pride, his guests are captivated, and Cain, a young baron, has proven his worth. The story carries on as Cain embarks on another quest, his mind buzzing with thoughts of responsibility and legacy. He arrives at Diam's place, ready to part with some of the monster materials he's collected. Minister Magnet had advised him to make this offering an act of respect, and perhaps a quiet nod to the strength Cain possesses. When Dime opens a small storage room, Cain glances at it and hesitates, sensing it won't be nearly enough space for what he has to unload. "Are they all like the red dragon you have in your mansion?" Dime asks, half joking, but with a flicker of nervous awe. Cain chuckles softly. "Not quite as grand. I do have an earth dragon, though Dime's face pales. An earth dragon is a creature that even seasoned, high-ranking adventurers wouldn't tackle alone." Cain's nonchalant tone doesn't seem to match the sheer magnitude of his achievement. Dime quickly moves Cain to the training grounds, instructing him to place the monsters there. "The knights can take care of moving them later," he says, trying to keep his composure as Cain summons one formidable beast after another. Dime's disbelief only grows with each monster Cain produces. He can't help but ask, "Are you a hero? Or perhaps a disciple of the gods?" Cain pauses, thrown off by the question, then replies gently, "Just the son of Margrave Garm." Dime nods, choosing not to pry further, yet unable to shake the suspicion that there's far more to Cain than he lets on. As Cain turns to leave, Dime stops him. "Would you mind meeting our knights and sparring with them? Our captain admires strength, and I think she'd love to see what you're capable of." Though reluctant, Cain agrees, and soon he finds himself introduced to the knights as the baron who defeated 50 orcs. The knights murmur in amazement. One knight scoffs, "Our royal chevalier shouldn't be crossing swords with a child." Yet moments later he stands across from Cain in a sparring ring. Cain moves with precision, using a boost spell to close the distance and end the duel almost instantly. Dime claps, urging Cain to take on the entire order of knights next. Just as Cain prepares himself, a young woman poised and fierce arrives and steps forward, scolding the knights, "Pointing your swords at a child." she demands, casting Cain a reassuring glance. She's the captain, and she's clearly protective. With gleaming excitement, she requests a duel with Cain. Their match is intense, a whirlwind of flashing blades and magic as they each push the limits of their strength and speed. Cain surprises her with his clock-up spell, surpassing even her boosted speed, and within moments, he claims victory. The captain, seemingly undeterred, declares with a grin, "I've decided. I'm going to marry you." The knights gasp, and Cain, stunned, stammers out, "I'm only 10, and I don't even know you." Laughing, she introduces herself as Tifana von Liebert, the daughter of Duke Liebert of the Northern Forest, and a viscountess. "Don't worry about age differences, I'm an elf. I'll live at least 300 years, she assures him, confident in her decision. Despite her lineage and social rank, Tifana boldly insists she'll marry Cain, as she promised her father she'd only return home with a worthy partner. Cain's discomfort grows. He explains that, though honored, he must speak with his family first. Tifana, unfazed, orders Dime to arrange a meeting with the king immediately. Dime's sigh reflects Cain's sentiment. This situation has spiraled beyond anything he could have imagined. In a blur of introductions and explanations, they find themselves before the king. With surprising directness, Tifana declares, "Cain and I are to be married." The king blinks, turning to Cain. After hearing his story, the king asks, "Have you told her about Princess Talesia and Lady Silk?" Cain, blushing, admits he hasn't, considering it a confidential matter. Garm shakes his head in exasperation, noting that Tifana's position as the daughter of Duke Liebert, the head of a territory as powerful as a small nation, adds complexity. Tifana, undeterred by the revelation of Cain's other engagements, only grows more resolute, enchanted by the idea that he's already acknowledged by royalty and nobility alike. The king, seeing her determination, suggests she write a letter to her father, seeking his permission, and to wait before making any more plans. Tifana readily agrees, leading Cain to draft the letter, and the king sighs, reflecting on Cain's power. Dime hints that perhaps Cain is no ordinary boy and may be destined for something greater. Later, Cain's fatigue shows, and he confides in Dime that Tifana's training sessions are relentless, each one pushing him to his limits. "Thanks to you, she's gotten even stronger," Dime jokes. Tifana soon seeks him out, eager for more sparring. But before she can spot him, Dime hastily drags Cain away, saying the king has summoned him again. This time, the king presents Cain with a book of emperor-level magic texts passed down in the royal family. As he inspects it, Cain realizes that this spellbook is written in a language long forgotten to this world, Japanese. The king, sensing Cain's knowledge, urges him to reveal his true identity. Cain hesitates, wrestling with the fear of losing everything if he's honest. After a deep breath, Cain begins. "I have memories of a past life, of a place called Japan. The first king of this land was from there too." He feels a weight lift as he continues, apologizing for keeping his secret for so long, worried his family might now view him differently. But the king, moved by Cain's sincerity, accepts his story, affirming that he's still the Cain they know and cherish. Just as the moment of understanding settles, Tifana bursts in, waving a letter approving her marriage to Cain. The others exchange weary glances, and Cain, with a mix of resignation and amusement, is whisked away by Tifana, who insists on yet another mock battle. And so Cain continues his journey, a hero, a noble, and a friend, with each new challenge unfolding a deeper understanding of his destiny and his heart. The story picks up with Cain carefully leafing through an ancient magic tome, a text so powerful it's reserved for only the highest levels of spellcasters. It's daunting, filled with complex emperor-level magic, but Cain's focus is unwavering. The book feels almost alive, humming with ancient energy as it reveals secrets long hidden from the world. But the biggest surprise isn't about magic at all. Instead, it's a truth buried in history that Cain hadn't fully realized until now. As he reads further, Cain's eyes widen as he stumbles upon a shocking revelation. The first king of this world, Uyatara Hirasawa, wasn't just a mythical hero, he was actually from Japan, the very place Cain remembers in distant, dream-like flashes from his own previous life. The book explains that Yuya was involved in a tragic accident back in Japan, and rather than dying, he was somehow transported to this world, much like Cain. The thought fills Cain with a strange mix of sorrow and awe. He's not alone in his experience. Someone else had once walked this same path, holding memories of a distant place, bridging two worlds in a way only a few could ever understand. Lost in thought, he's startled when he hears familiar footsteps. Telestia and Silk enter the room, and their eyes brighten at the sight of him with the massive tome. Thinking he must be studying for the academy entrance exams, they eagerly ask if they can study with him. Cain's heart aches a little as he looks at their hopeful expressions. They want to help and be close to him, but today he has other pressing matters. With a gentle smile, he apologizes and explains that he can't join them for studying just now, but promises that they'll get the chance to study together soon. Reluctantly, the girls accept his answer, though he can see the disappointment flickering in their eyes. After bidding them farewell, Cain steps out into the courtyard, only to find himself face to face with Tifana, who has her usual fierce yet friendly grin. She's been waiting for him, and without wasting a moment, she proposes a mock battle outside the capital tomorrow. Cain, surprised but appreciative of her enthusiasm, politely tells her that he's too busy for sparring just now, suggesting they reschedule. He can't tell her just yet, but today is a special day for him, one he's been anticipating for a long time. Today is his 12th birthday, the day he finally qualifies to register as an adventurer. He's been dreaming of this moment, and his heart races with excitement as he heads to the Adventurers Guild. Approaching the guild, Cain feels a mix of excitement and nerves. The place hums with activity, the walls lined with bustling adventurers, each one seemingly stronger or more seasoned than the last. As he looks around in awe, he accidentally bumps into a man with a shock of red hair. The man chuckles, recognizing Cain as a newcomer, and with a friendly pat on the shoulder, he advises Cain to take care and be mindful, as one wrong move could be the difference between life and death. Cain nods, thanking the man, but something nags at him. The man's red hair and aura seem oddly familiar, though Cain can't place where he's seen him before. Once at the counter, the guild receptionist hands Cain a registration form. Cain hesitates for a moment, contemplating whether he should include his title of Baron in his name. He knows that revealing his noble status might change how people treat him, and he doesn't want that. Determined to prove himself based on his own abilities, he leaves it out, filling in only the essentials. The receptionist takes the form, processes his registration, and hands him his very first guild card, stamped with a G rank, the starting point for all new adventurers. Cain clutches it, feeling a surge of pride and excitement. But his moment of pride is abruptly interrupted by a grating voice. A loud, rough-looking adventurer approaches, clearly sizing Cain up as an easy target. He mocks Cain, calling him a kid and telling him to run home before he gets hurt. Cain sighs inwardly. He's faced his share of bullies, and this is nothing new. The man and his friends try to intimidate him, circling around, but Cain, calm and prepared, dodges every move they make with ease, his reflexes so precise that it only flusters them further. Just when the situation seems on the brink of escalating, the red-haired man from before steps in, his presence instantly intimidating Cain's would-be attackers. They recognize him as Claude from the famous adventurer party, Ice Flame, and, realizing they're outmatched, they slink away, grumbling. Cain, relieved, thanks Claude, who smiles and explains that he stopped them for their own safety. He could tell from the way Cain moved that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Claude, intrigued by the young adventurer's spirit, invites Cain to join him for a drink, seeing promise in the young boy. Grateful for the kindness, Cain agrees. Sitting across from each other with mugs in hand, they talk about the guild and life as an adventurer. Claude shares stories about his adventures with his wife, Lena, an ice mage, explaining how they formed Ice Flame as a duo. He encourages Cain to eventually find his own party, stressing how essential it is to have reliable allies in order to take on high-ranking quests. Just then, Lena herself appears, hands on her hips, mildly scolding Claude for drinking so early in the day. She turns her attention to Cain, smiling warmly and assuring him that he can come to her if he ever needs advice or assistance. After bidding them farewell, Cain heads to the quest board. His gaze falls upon a goblin-slaying quest, offering rewards per goblin defeated, with no upper limit. Cain's eyes sparkle. This is perfect. He accepts the quest and heads out, only to run into Tifana again. She's surprised to see him, asking if he's on a mission. Cain eagerly shares that he's off on his first adventure, and Tifana insists on joining him, proudly declaring that it's her duty as his future wife to be by his side on such an occasion. Though slightly embarrassed, Cain can't help but feel grateful for her support as she drags him to the forest. In the dense woods, the air buzzing with tension, they spot a group of goblins attacking a carriage. Without hesitation, they rush in. Tifana fearlessly charges the goblins, her sword flashing as she takes down enemy after enemy, while Cain uses healing magic to stabilize the carriage driver. Together, they fight seamlessly, each covering the other's back, the bond between them growing with each strike. Their relief is short-lived, however, as a new threat emerges from the trees. A pack of green lizards, their scales glinting ominously. Cain tells Tifana to take the driver to safety, assuring her he can handle this on his own. He casts a blinding light spell, stunning the lizards before quickly finishing them off with ice magic. Tifana watches in awe, pride swelling in her chest as she realizes just how powerful her husband truly is. Returning to the guild, Cain eagerly reports his success, mentioning the green lizards. The receptionist Risha looks shocked, explaining that green lizard quests are typically reserved for higher ranks, and defeating a group of them is especially challenging for a new adventurer. She alerts the chief, who quickly dismisses Cain's report as unbelievable, accusing him of lying to gain more rewards. Just then, the guildmaster enters, intrigued by the commotion. The guildmaster smiles knowingly when he hears Cain's story, revealing to the stunned chief that Cain isn't just any kid, he's a noble, and a hero at that. Shocked, the chief stammers an apology. As if that wasn't enough, the guildmaster reveals his own connection to Tifana, confirming he's her brother, much to Cain's surprise. The guildmaster chuckles, assuring Cain that he trusts him completely, and is even glad that Cain may one day become part of his family. Tifana grins and teasingly mentions how they've already shared their joint training, which leaves Cain blushing. Recognizing Cain's abilities, the guildmaster decides to promote him, granting him an unheard-of rank advancement on his very first day. He hands Cain a golden guild card, marking him as an A-rank adventurer. Cain can hardly believe it, his heart pounding as he realizes he's just taken a massive step toward his dream. Meanwhile, the gods observe Cain's journey from afar, pleased with his growth yet worried about what lies ahead. They know that soon he'll face challenges unlike any he's encountered before, and they wonder how they can aid him further, perhaps by finding him a powerful new mentor. Later, as Cain rejoices in his achievements, Telestia and Silk approach, reminding him of his promise to study together. He agrees, happy to finally spend time with them. But just then Tifana joins them, boasting about their forest date and insisting they have a beach date next. Telestia and Silk give Cain an exasperated look, feeling left out of his recent adventures. As they half-jokingly scold him, Cain finds himself laughing, his heart full, as he realizes he's surrounded by friends and allies who believe in him, no matter the challenges to come. As the story unfolds, Cain stirs awake in his bed, feeling the soft warmth of the morning sun streaming through his window. The gentle light brings with it a sense of excitement, reminding him that today is a monumental day. It's the day of his entrance exams for the academy, a place he's dreamed of attending for so long. His heart races with anticipation, and he feels a rush of both pride and nervousness. But before he can fully get up, he hears a quiet knock at his door. The door opens to reveal Sylvie, who steps in with an apologetic look on her face. She greets him with a soft, "Good morning, Cain. I'm so sorry for waking you up so late today of all days. I'd never forgive myself if you were late because of me." Her words are filled with genuine concern, and Cain can see she's trying to hurry him along, worry creasing her brow. Cain, though, manages a reassuring smile. He knows how much she cares, and he gently tells her, "Don't worry, Sylvie. I promise I won't be late." Sylvie, relieved but still fussing a bit, helps him get ready with a quiet efficiency. Once he's prepared, he gives her a grateful nod before heading out. With a quiet word and a flash of magic, Cain teleports directly to the academy gates, sparing himself the rush. He grins, knowing he made it just in time. Stepping into the academy's bustling entryway, he feels a thrill run through him. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter. At the reception desk, Cain approaches and confidently gives his name. The receptionist checks the records and hands him his exam number, along with a small list of instructions. "You'll be in classroom for the written exam," the receptionist says, directing him with a friendly but professional tone. Cain glances at the list and notes, with a twinge of disappointment, that no familiar names appear alongside his own. It seems Telestia and Silk, his closest friends, aren't in his class today. He wonders where they are and hopes they're also having a smooth start to their own exams. He heads to his designated room and finds a seat, scanning the faces of the other students around him. He can't shake the feeling of loneliness without his friends there, but he reassures himself that they're just in different classrooms and that they'll meet up afterward. Just then, the teacher enters, a calm but stern presence as she stands before the class. She reminds them of the rules, especially emphasizing that anyone caught cheating will be ejected immediately. She sets a 2-hour timer and wishes them luck as the exam begins. As Cain looks over the exam questions, relief washes over him. Arithmetic, writing, history, it's all straightforward, especially for someone with a noble background. He moves through each question with ease, jotting down answers almost instinctively. Soon he's finished, feeling quite pleased. He leans back, allowing himself a moment to relax, and is surprised when the teacher gives him an inquisitive look. "Can you really afford to relax already?" she asks, raising an eyebrow. Cain chuckles softly, responding, "Actually, I've already completed the test." Her eyes widen slightly as she glances at the clock. "It's only been half an hour," she mutters, almost incredulously. Cain just nods, quietly amused, as the rest of the students continue to work. Time seems to slip by, and before he knows it, the teacher announces that the exam is over. She instructs everyone to leave their answer sheets on the desk and head to the training grounds for the magic ability assessment. Once outside, Cain feels a familiar flutter of excitement in his chest. Magic assessments are where he truly shines, and he can't wait to show what he's capable of. At the training grounds, the teacher explains that each student will be using their strongest spell to attack a target, emphasizing that a protective barrier is in place around the training area, allowing them to go all out. Cain steps forward, wondering if he should truly unleash his full power. He hesitates for a moment and then asks the teacher for clarification. She assures him, with a confident smile, that the barrier will hold. Watching the other students take their turns, Cain quickly realizes that their spells are comparatively simple. It's clear that he's leagues above them in magical ability, and he decides to restrain his power to a beginner level, casting a humble fire bullet. But even at this level, his fire bullet surges forward with incredible force, piercing through the target, the barrier, and even impacting the walls beyond, sending fragments scattering across the grounds. Gasps and murmurs ripple through the crowd, and the teacher stares in wide-eyed disbelief. "What just happened?" she asks, still in shock. Cain shrugs, saying simply, "I used fire bullet." The teacher can barely contain her amazement. A beginner-level spell can cause this much damage. Once they confirm no one was injured, the teacher gathers herself, still eyeing him warily, and directs everyone to the swordsmanship exam. As they arrive, the teacher introduces a group of special guests from the Adventurers Guild. Among them is none other than Claude, a seasoned adventurer Cain has encountered before. Claude's eyes light up with recognition, and with a hearty laugh, he asks Cain what he's doing at the exam. Cain explains with a modest smile, "I'm here for the Academy entrance exam." To his surprise, Claude then offers to be his sparring partner, eager to test the young talent. Cain tries to politely decline, sensing the tension in the air, but the teacher insists, eager to see how he handles the challenge. Realizing he has little choice, Cain takes up his sword, bracing himself for a serious match. Claude grins, clearly excited, and they begin to spar. Cain quickly realizes that Claude, as a rank adventurer, is indeed skilled. He focuses, activating a simple boost spell to match his opponent's pace, and their blades clash, echoing across the training grounds. The other examinees stare, mesmerized by the intensity of the match, though it becomes evident that they're somewhat intimidated. Cain senses this and attempts to hold back, not wanting to alarm them further, but Claude, relishing the challenge, steps up his efforts, even casting his own boost spell. The teacher finally steps in, stopping the match with a light reprimand. She reminds both of them that this is merely an entrance exam, not a full-scale duel, and that they're scaring the other applicants. Claude, catching his breath, chuckles and pats Cain on the shoulder. "We'll have to do this again sometime," he says warmly. Cain smiles, though he can't help but think to himself that he'd rather avoid another match of that intensity if he can help it. With his exam concluded, The teacher tells Cain he's free to go and should return when the results are announced. As Cain makes his way home, his mind drifts to how the day unfolded. Once he arrives, Sylvie meets him at the door, a smile brightening her face as she asks eagerly, "How did it go?" Cain grins, reporting that he thinks he did well, and Sylvie's face lights up with joy. She insists that they celebrate with a feast, and despite his modest protests, his stomach growls, betraying his hunger. Laughing, Sylvie heads to the kitchen to start preparations. Later that evening, Cain finds himself summoned to the palace, where the king greets him with a curious expression. Cain, the king begins, "I hear you made quite an impression at the academy." Cain scratches his head, recounting the teacher's request to use his full power and how, despite using only a beginner-level spell, he managed to destroy the barrier. The king listens intently, even more intrigued when Cain casually mentions that he could have used much more powerful magic but chose not to. Amused yet mildly exasperated, the king reminds Cain to take extra caution, especially given his extraordinary abilities. He warns Cain to be mindful, as he doesn't want to cause unnecessary commotion. The next day, Cain arrives at the academy to check the results and is thrilled to see he's placed first. As he savors his achievement, Silk approaches with a teasing smile, congratulating him while mentioning the uproar he caused. She adds that Celestia is upset because she couldn't watch him on the day of the exams. Cain blushes, feeling slightly embarrassed by his unintended chaos, but Silk reassures him, saying Celestia will forgive him soon enough. As they chat, his older sister, Rain, appears, congratulating him on his high marks and reminding him to prepare for the entrance ceremony speech. Cain stammers, having not realized he'd have to give a speech, but Rain merely smiles and tells him it's already been announced. The story shifts to the ceremony, where Cain stands proudly on stage in his academy uniform. In his speech, he expresses his hope that the academy will be a place for people of all backgrounds to connect and learn together. His words resonate with the students, many of whom clap and cheer, inspired by his ideals. The king, observing from his seat, gives a knowing smile, aware that Cain's presence will bring both growth and challenge to the academy. As the days pass, Cain settles into his new life, attending classes with Celestia and Silk. They discuss their courses, with Celestia choosing subjects to help her manage a noble estate and Silk aiming to study commerce. Cain decides to focus on adventuring, magic, and magical items, thinking these will best prepare him for his dreams. One afternoon, Cain sees some nobles bullying a fellow student, Parma, insisting she leave the academy so they can take her spot. Cain steps in, admonishing them firmly and reminding them that nobility doesn't make them superior. Celestia and Silk, watching nearby, lend their voices, and the bullies retreat, chastened. Cain apologizes to Parma for the delay, and she thanks him, grateful to be his friend. As the day ends, Cain hears a voice beckoning him to the library. Following it, he's led to a grand mansion where a mysterious figure resembling the first king awaits him. The two share coffee, and Cain marvels at how his life has changed, filled with challenges, allies, and mysteries. The story picks up with Cain sitting across from a familiar figure, a man he had met briefly before. They are seated comfortably, enjoying the warmth and aroma of freshly brewed coffee. As Cain sips, he can't shake the feeling that there's something extraordinary about this man. The man finally breaks the silence, his voice gentle yet powerful. "I've heard about you from Xenom and the others," he says with a small, knowing smile. Cain feels a slight thrill. The mention of Xenom, his mentor and ally, fills him with a mixture of nostalgia and anticipation. There is a mystery around this man that Cain is beginning to sense. The man then leans forward, his eyes piercing yet calm. "Allow me to introduce myself," he says. "My name is Yuya Tara Harasawa." The name alone makes Cain's breath catch. He recognizes it immediately. This man, sitting casually in front of him with an otherworldly air, is none other than Yuya, the first king of Esfort, a figure of legend. Cain stammers, the first king. But Esfort was founded 3 centuries ago. You should be. His mind races, torn between awe and disbelief. It's as if he's sitting with a relic from the past, something not meant to still exist in this realm. Yuya smiles, as if reading his thoughts. "Yes, Esfort was indeed founded 300 years ago, but I am as present now as I was then," he says, his voice steady. The words hang in the air, thick with mystery, and Cain feels a shiver run down his spine. "Are you a ghost?" then Cain asks, half joking to mask the unease in his voice. Yuya chuckles. "You could call me that, but I'd prefer if you used your judgment skill and see for yourself." Curious and slightly apprehensive, Cain activates his judgment ability, peering into Yuya's stats. The result shocks him. He reads, wide-eyed, the title God of Creation attached to Yuya's name. Yuya notices Cain's expression and nods. "Yes, it's true," he says calmly. "I am the God of Creation. I was the one who forged this world, a place we call Fat Neil." Cain's mind reels. His disbelief turns to stunned silence as he grapples with the implications. This man or God was the creator of his entire world. It seemed unimaginable, yet here Yuya was, sitting before him, unchanged even after 300 years, speaking with him as if it were a casual chat. Taking another sip of his coffee, Yuya explains, "I summoned you here, Cain, because Xenom and the others have asked me to help train you." Cain's stomach flips at the thought of more training. He already feels like he's struggling to manage his current abilities. But Yuya's gaze holds a silent insistence, as if he understands the weight of Cain's hesitation. "Here," Yuya says, sliding a plate of cookies toward him. "Try to take one." Cain raises an eyebrow, feeling a bit bewildered. "Cookie," he reaches out, fully expecting to pluck one off the plate without issue. But as he tries, his hand stops, unable to grasp even a crumb. Yuya watches him with a calm patience as Cain struggles, unable to take a single cookie. Flustered, Cain pulls his hand back. "Why can't I do it?" he wonders aloud, frustration coloring his tone. Yuya's expression turns serious. "Cain, there is a reason for this training. There's someone in this world who must be stopped, and you're the only one with the potential to do so." Cain's mind races, trying to imagine who could be so dangerous that he needs this kind of power to confront them. "Who is it?" Cain asks, his curiosity mingled with dread. Yuya's voice drops, growing somber. "He is called Eren, the evil god. 300 years ago, he manipulated countless people, driving them to hatred and war. He used an oracle to plant seeds of distrust in people's minds, making them fight each other. We managed to seal him then, but now the seal is weakening." Yuya's gaze holds a sadness that goes beyond mere memory. It's the weight of a burden he's carried all this time. Cain's heart sinks. The thought of someone with that kind of power fills him with fear. "If he's that dangerous, why can't you just seal him again?" he asks, hope flickering in his voice. Yuya shakes his head. "I'm a god of this world now, Cain. I can no longer intervene in Xenom's world directly. That's why it falls to you." Cain feels the responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. But then Yuya's words grow more mysterious, hinting at a connection between Eren and Cain's own past. Cain asks what he means, but Yuya only smiles. Yuya then snaps his fingers, and in an instant, the scene changes. Cain finds himself standing by an endless ocean, the waves crashing at his feet. "From here on, I will be your teacher," Yuya says, his voice echoing across the expanse. "To reach the mansion where we met, you must do so on foot. And remember, no teleportation magic. If you want to face Eren, you must reach level 600. The words hit Cain like a punch. "But I'm only at level 300, he exclaims, trying to process the vast chasm between his current strength and what Yuya is asking of him. Yuya merely nods, acknowledging the difficulty. "I know it won't be easy, but remember, time flows differently here. A single year here is but a day in your world." He steps back, leaving Cain alone with the task that looms ahead. Cain steels himself, feeling a sense of determination take root. He steps forward, entering the dense forest surrounding him. But the moment he sets foot inside, creatures of all shapes and sizes descend upon him, fierce and unrelenting. Meanwhile, back in Cain's world, Sylvie is growing increasingly anxious. She hasn't seen Cain since the previous day, and she worries if something terrible has happened. Celestia and Silk join her in the search, the three of them combing through the school grounds and Cain's home, their concern mounting. Yet, Celestia reassures Sylvie with a confidence that's almost unshakable. "Cain is strong," she says softly. "We have to believe he'll come back to us." In the strange world Yuya has left him in, Days pass, and Cain fights battle after battle, struggling against exhaustion, isolation, and endless waves of monsters. He begins to lose hope, feeling a dark shadow overtake him, filling him with despair and loneliness. He hasn't slept soundly in what feels like an eternity. One night, as he trudges forward, he hears a faint sound, a creature's whimper. Following the sound, he finds an injured beast lying on the forest floor, breathing heavily. The sight stirs something within him, and Cain raises his weapon, murmuring that he'll end its misery. But as he looks at the creature, a memory flickers in his mind. The reason he was brought here in the first place was to protect. He lowers his weapon, feeling a pang of guilt. Gently, he tries to heal the beast, but his magic is almost spent. Determined not to give up, he pushes harder, forcing out every last drop of energy he has. As his strength gives way, he collapses, falling into a deep sleep. When he wakes, he finds the beast watching over him, a silent guardian in the quiet forest. Cain reaches out to the creature, sensing a kinship in its gaze. "Are you alone too?" he asks softly. The creature's eyes seem to answer, and Cain feels a spark of companionship fill the emptiness within him. He names the beast Haku, and together, they continue on the arduous path. After 4 long years of relentless training, Cain finally returns to the mansion, now stronger than ever. Yuya meets him at the door, his eyes filled with pride. "You've grown, Cain," he says with a smile. Cain nods, feeling the weight of his journey settle within him. He's not the same person who started this path. He's grown, both in strength and in spirit. Yuya notices Haku by his side and realizes that the creature is a holy beast. "You should form a contract with it," he advises, explaining that it would allow Cain to summon Haku anytime he needs. With a solemn nod, Cain agrees, completing the ritual that binds them together. But Yuya's words take a somber turn as he finally explains Eren's connection to Cain's past. In Cain's previous life, as Shiinya Kazuya, he had been summoned along with his parents to this world. They had fought valiantly to protect it. But Eren's dark power had ultimately taken Cain's parents from him. Yuya's gaze turns sad as he recalls the day Eren wounded Cain's mother and forced his father to sacrifice himself in the battle. Cain feels a fresh determination. This is his fight now, not just to protect the world but to honor the memory of his parents. With his training complete, Cain prepares to return to his world. Yuya hands him a sword, asking him to deliver it to the king as a final parting gift. Stepping through the portal, Cain arrives back home, where Sylvie, Telestia, and Silk welcome him with open arms. They had been waiting, hoping, believing in his return. As Cain bites into a cookie that Silk made, he realizes just how much he missed home. Tears fill his eyes as he looks at his friends, the people who believe in him and give him strength. He thanks them, feeling a warmth that even the fiercest of battles couldn't extinguish. With his friends by his side and his heart resolute, Cain knows he's ready for whatever lies ahead.